Here we are with Bedroom Talk. We know the majority of people really like seeing cute kitties on Facebook and Instagram
and YouTube.
and YouTube. So we thought we would start off with our cute kitties here. This is just two of our four. So this is Funfetti, and this is Twinkie. Actually, we call him Charlie. But
We thought maybe we'd get, bigger viewership if we were watching YouTubes about kitties.
yeah.
Okay,
So,
run.
go. So that's enough about kitty cats. So let's get to the real issues here. So I think last night we had talked a bit about Obamacare.
Yeah, it was part of the debate thing, came up healthcare.
Yes, it had been mentioned. And so actually, I was learning quite a bit from our conversation on our discussion about Obamacare. So there are some things that I really wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
And
We had talked about it on the video about some of the positive things that it was covering pre-existing conditions and um, adult children to
yeah,
a
being able to
older age.
keep them until they're 26. So.
But when I look at government policies and plans and such, a lot of times I look at the questions of whether they're following the rules of government. If it's the proper role for that branch of government, and if they're staying into where they should be. And I'm very leery of things that where the government is changing what they do. And Obamacare is a great example. It changed the role of government in, I think we came up with it was either 4 or 5 ways. We'll see if I can remember them. One is it put them into the healthcare industry, which is not a role of government.
Yeah, government should govern.
Yeah, it's not in the Constitution. It's not a role of government, and I think it's 11% of the economy. It's a huge thing. So they've been put into an industry to control that industry in a very, very close way. And it's not just the industry itself. It's another industry that's attached, which is financial industry of insurance. It's not a matter of me going and paying for my health care. I have to give money to a financial agency, an insurance company, and then they pay for my health care on my behalf. I really think Americans should be able to make their own purchases and not have to work through another agency in order to do it, and yet the government is requiring it. Another one was it comes mostly on the issue of abortion, which was a big deal there, where the government is now. We have a law that says the government cannot pay for abortions. It was passed by Congress, and so the government doesn't directly fund abortions. But Obamacare gets around that because Obama and Hillary and such want to promote abortions in America and want the government to pay for it. But this way, the government doesn't pay for it. The government just passes a law that says you have to buy insurance and you have to pay for it, which is really a violation of a very fundamental principle in America and in the Constitution, which is a freedom of conscience, freedom of religion, that says we should be able to have our own value system and live accordingly. And now we have the government saying, no, you can't have your own value system. We will tell you what your value system is, and you will have to abide by the new value system that we're going to dictate to you. And you will have to pay for abortions, whether you're consciously against it or not. And that was required unless you go through a legal battle with the government, like a couple of organizations did. Mm-hmm. And then everybody else has to pay for it. That also moves abortions out of the realm of where they were, where you went to an abortion clinic, to now they're put into mainstream hospitals where they become a mainstream activity that hospitals are responsible for. So now we have hospitals functioning as abortion clinics. That's a big, big change. And then the fourth was the enforcement agency now is the IRS. It's the only branch of government where you're guilty until proven innocent. The IRS says you're guilty. If we say you're guilty, and you have to prove whether you're innocent or not, and we will decide. The IRS will decide whether you're innocent. So they're judging themselves. And so if you don't participate in Obamacare when it comes to filling out your taxes, the IRS will now force you. They will extract the money from you so that you will conform. You will obey the government. You will do it the way they say. And if you don't, you will be punished. And that's the whole idea of, why do we have taxes? That's not a rhetorical question. Why do we have taxes?
So that the government has money to run on.
Right. It's to fund the government so they can work in the service of the people. Right? Because they're public servants, and so they need money so that they can serve us. But what's this? This is, no, taxes exist as a way to manipulate your behavior and make you conform to what the government wants. And it happens over and over again. We're going to tax sodas. We're going to tax cigarettes. We're going to tax write-offs for things. If you purchase the right things, if you buy dinner out as a business, you can write that off because we think that's a good thing. But if you cook dinner at home, you can't write that off because we don't think that's a good thing. And so more and more we find taxes are passed to control our behavior rather than to raise funds so that the government can work in our service. It's to penalize us so that we will adapt to the government standards.
To work for the people.
So Obamacare isn't bad because of what it does to healthcare and because it raises healthcare prices, although it does. It's bad because it changes the fundamental function of government. And for that reason, it needs to be repealed and start over again because the government has no business doing that. It's not the way it's supposed to function. So I can get off my soapbox and go to bed.
All right.
Good night. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Good night.